Are you by any chance a virgin?
That's a very personal question.
She's a virgin.
We are talking about the movie Satanic Panic. This one is directed by Chelsea Stardust. Chelsea Stardust has done a couple of movies before, All That We Destroy, Marco Polo, Slay Per View, so a few kind of genre movies. It's got a pretty good cast: Rebecca Romijn, Jerry O'Connell, Jordan Ladd, Ruby Modine, daughter of Matthew. And it's kind of a horror comedy, and it focuses on this young pizza delivery girl. On her first day of her job, is tasked to go to this out area, very kind of wealthy to do area, and deliver a pizza. And while she's there, she is stiffed for a tip, and she decides that she's going to kind of break into this house and demand a tip. But she walks in on them doing a satanic practice, and they kind of deduce that she's clearly a virgin and want to sacrifice her to Baphomet. And what follows is a kind of on the run movie with our kind of main protagonist teaming up with an unlikely ally, all the whilst trying to dodge the Satanists led by Rebecca Romijn. And then within the kind of the group of the Satanists, there was a kind of challenge to leadership. So let's talk about what works first of all. For a lower budget film, I have to say this is actually quite a well shot movie and goes at a good old pace. You've got a great cast here. Rebecca Romijn is very kind of sultry and seductive as the kind of the head honcho of the satanic kind of group. Some of the best kind of sequences in the movie, and in fact actually involve her and her kind of second in command, so to speak, who is this other woman who's sort of challenging her for leadership. And it can remind you of those kind of the best kind of like female duos that have this kind of like battle for supremacy that we've kind of seen on screen. I was reminded of things like Diana and Lydia from the kind of the V TV series, and you know, Dallas, when you had Sue Ellen and whoever it was that she was kind of feuding with at the time. So all these kind of like, you know, fun little kind of like duos where we have these kind of two women who are kind of like trying to outbitch each other. They did a great job here. The movie goes surprisingly violent, actually. There's a fair amount of violence on screen, and we'll come on to that again in just a minute, but don't be expecting some fluffy kind of comedy, because there is a fair amount of kind of gore, reasonably high kind of body count, and, you know, some special effects. I've got to say, I think everyone did a pretty good job with the acting. I really kind of liked the dynamic between our two protagonists, if you like. We have our pizza delivery girl, and Ruby Modine kind of plays a kind of an ally to her who may well have had connection to the Satanist herself. And they actually have a really kind of good chemistry together. And I actually really enjoyed their scenes. And they do seem that they are genuinely kind of bonding on screen, as we are kind of meant to believe through the movie. There's some pretty decent effects here and there through the movie as well, in regards to kind of some of the prosthetics that have used. And the movie is sometimes funny, and this kind of leads me on to the negatives here. And then the one big one for me, and this may be a taste thing, but the movie seems very confused in regards to tone, because the movie is not as whimsical as I was expecting, and far more violent than I was anticipating. So this movie does go in some pretty dark places, and I felt it may have been better had it have taken a more serious approach. Because the movie starts out like it's going to have like an American Pie-esque kind of like hijinks involved and kind of that sort of thing. But when we kind of get down to it, some of the kind of the stuff which we actually see is actually pretty kind of graphic. Now, there are some moments where the comedy does work for me. In particular, as I've mentioned, the kind of the struggle for power within the kind of the Satanist group themselves, I think did have some kind of good gags there involving, you know, just the phone going off in the background and getting like they can't find it, it's kind of distracting from their ritual, things like that. There are a couple of moments that for me worked, but the general tone of the movie is a weird mishmash of very kind of quite serious kind of horror and kind of death versus a strange whimsical kind of tone, and it, to me, it doesn't quite mesh quite as well. And therefore some of the characters seem out of place, because when we have our scenes of more seriousness and kind of having kind of people getting killed on screen, it doesn't quite ring true because we have this weird kind of mesh of tones. I feel like if you are, I mean, I see a lot of comedy is very objective, and I see a lot of people don't like horror comedies to a certain degree, and I feel this one will be particularly divisive. But it does have a kind of a fun tone. I think I would have preferred it had it taken it seriously, or maybe gone all out and be just a kind of a little bit more balls out comedy. But as it stands at the moment, it's kind of a strange mix. But there's still a lot to enjoy here, so I'll give this one a 6 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.